First, which I mean, they're a good company. They'll pay you pretty well. So the news director's a little rough, but once you get past that, it's not that bad.
He worked for about 2 years.
There you go.
All right, we'll just
Yeah.
put a bug in it on that one.
There you go.
Who's the news?
Her name's Susan. Yeah. They're pulling me out for something back on 65.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. See ya.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, do you?
Call this October 19th, special call meeting of the Hoover City Council to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Here. 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 Here.
Here. If the clerk would please provide the invocation and Mr. Posey the pledge.
Let us pray. Lord, you have filled this world with such beauty. Open our eyes and our hearts and our minds that we may be ever mindful of your great love for us and your presence with us. We pray each day for your guidance in our daily lives. May our faith always be stronger than our fears. We pray for this city and its citizens, and we ask that you would bestow your wisdom on this mayor and council in their decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Salute and pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an extensive agenda tonight. Resolution 5731-17, Mr. Clerk.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Frank B. Mercado to execute an agreement with Soccer X Limited substantially the form attached here to is Exhibit A.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5731-17. Second.
We have a motion and a second. I think before we start any conversation, we have about a 3-minute video that I would like presented to me this afternoon. I would like to share with those in attendance. We have somebody operating.
Well, it's ready for internet, so
Okay. April.
it's ready to go. Just put it on the internet and then
Does it have the site already in it?
Mr. Shaw, how's that technology upgrade coming along?
This, what was it, 1.4 mil?
I think after the refurbishing, options would be a lot better. Maybe, maybe we can just, do without that portion.
By far the best investment marketing that we make each year. And potential partners or key adopters of our technology in every category on our list, and we're only beginning day 2 of this now.
This is the first time I joined Southwest Family a few years ago, and now it was unbelievable for me to experience such a big event. But at the same time, I felt very family oriented in terms of everyone knew each other. Someone would introduce you to someone else, and so on and so on and so on. So by the end of the whole weekend, we could not only fluently a lot of contacts, but at the same time, a lot of friends.
Potential partners or key adopters of our technology in every category on our list, and we're only beginning day 2 of this now.
It'll play better after. In short, what we have before us tonight is a resolution that would, if passed by the council, we would be asking the mayor to sign an agreement with SoccerX to hold a continental conference in Hoover, September of next year. And it would be attended by representatives of programs from South America, Central America, Mexico, the United States, Canada, and other countries of the Caribbean. Then in turn, it would be up to SoccerX to either sign the contract or send it back for additional negotiations. The city has already received a letter of intent from SoccerX to allow Hoover to be the first city in the United States since it last premiered in California over 20 years ago. With that being said, are there any members of the council who would like to make any statements?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, let me start by saying that I want every venture Hoover undertakes to be successful and for our city to continue to have a reputation for excellence. With that being said, I am compelled to bring up my concerns about the proposed SoccerX project. First, the council was given only 1 week to consider the idea of Hoover hosting the SoccerX Global Convention and only received the finished 21-page resolution this morning. Considering that this would be a minimum $500,000 plus expenditure of taxpayer money, I do not think that 1 week is sufficient time to research and review the data and make a good decision for our city. Second, we have very little data to review. Although SoccerX made a 30-minute presentation at last week's work session and met with a few council members to answer additional questions, the only written information we have consists of 2 SoccerX promotional brochures, a couple of impact studies given to me by a fellow councilman, and a 1-page magazine article about SoccerX's 2017 Global Convention. I have not seen a business plan or any financial records and cannot imagine investing in anything based on such incomplete information. Third, there is a very clear difference between the previous SoccerX venues and Hoover. The convention has been held in Paris, London, Johannesburg, Rio de Janeiro, Los Angeles, and Manchester, which is the acknowledged premier sports center in England. Each of these cities is already a popular tourist destination, already has a solid reputation as a global event and conference destination, and already has an established and proven business tourism strategy successfully in place. I believe that Hoover can and should develop its own tourism strategy plan and work toward becoming a global event and conference destination. But those necessary elements are simply not in place right now. Fourth, Hoover would carry 100% of the financial risk for this project. We would pay a $500,000 hosting fee, $250 hotel accommodation nights plus breakfast, as well as the total cost of providing the venue for the convention. At this point, I have not seen even an approximate expenditure for the total amount of this project. In a year where all city departments had to reduce spending by 10%, I find it very difficult to spend more than $500,000 the city has not budgeted in order to fund a project that may or may not break even or bring in future events and revenue. The bottom line here is that there is too little time for consideration, too many maybes, and not enough certainties for me to support this project.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'll say just a couple things. This is a complicated decision, but it's also pretty simple. The first question for me, looking at this, because it is a lot of money, is it legit? Soccer is not something we're used to. That's something the kids play upward and things like that. You got folks from out of town, they talk a little different than we do, and they're asking for a lot of money, so you have to do your due diligence on some of this. Some of us have been hearing rumors and talking about it for many months. I know it's been presented to different entities in the city. Everything I've heard legitimizes it. The people we've spoken to, the councilman who actually visited the conference over there, I can say with complete confidence that I think this is a legitimate enterprise. We're confident in the legalities of the contract and everything. Mr. Corley, is there any concern there?
We
reviewed the form of the agreement on behalf of the city and approved it from a legal standpoint.
So, I mean, anytime there's international entry, you gotta worry about some of those things, or legal counsel, is okay with it. Second thing is, can we pull it off? What makes this big is not that it's a big event. What makes it big is the people who come here. You know, high-level executives from one of the largest, in fact, the largest sport in the entire world. But it's, at the end of the day, it's 1,500 of them. We can handle a conference like that, no problem. And the opportunity to be on the world stage like that, opportunities like that don't come around very often. I'm reminded, I know some of the folks in the auditorium, back when I was in college, and me and my wife were dating, we were involved in the ACOG Olympic Games effort to bring Olympic soccer here. My wife was actually an intern that went around with the entourage and all that. And I remember, where did they have the big pep rally for that? It was down in the Galleria. You know, so Hoover, even back then, Hoover was selling international sports. I think we can pull this off. This is very straightforward. I guess the third thing is this good? Is it good for the city? We have a Ferrari of a sports complex. How it got here, we can talk about that for hours on end, but the fact is this council and the mayor, we have a high-end, world-class sports facility, and we gotta give it fuel. If we want that thing to get out on the road and hit the speeds we want it to hit, we have to give it fuel. And what I'm concerned about is if we balk at the opportunity like this, you know, we starve that facility of opportunities that we need to really ramp it up to the things we need it to do. I think this is a great opportunity to promote the facility. This isn't just any convention. This isn't a convention of bankers or some other business. These are a convention of sports professionals that are looking to invest in the U.S., and we're ready for that. And the opportunity to have those sports executives at our facility, hitting to 11, turning the amps up to 11 at that facility, I think that's something we got to really seriously consider. Yeah, the money is a concern, but when you play at levels like we're talking about playing, that's what you got to do. And I think if we review this and we think it's legit, then I'm comfortable making that step to take us to the level that I think we should be playing at.
One thing I'd like to say, Mr. Corley, in working to protect the city's position, held a conference call this morning that he invited me to participate in with an affiliate law firm in Britain. And this gentleman was on the phone this morning. He was asked what the topic was. SoccerX was mentioned, and without any prompting, he basically stated that SoccerX is exemplary and is the largest organization in the world that promotes soccer on the globe. And he gave glowing remarks to that. I don't want to put Mr. Corley on the spot, but if anybody wants to ask any questions about that. Any other comments from the council?
Are you looking for comments or questions?
Either?
Okay. I've read through it twice. I have several questions. I think the first is going to be, in a lot of agreements like this, when you're going to host a Super Bowl, you're going to host something along those lines, a big convention like this, you put in a bid. There's a bid process. You put in a bid and you put together a packet and you submit it. When I read this, it reads as though this is a finalized agreement. We have this conference when we sign on the dotted line. And I need to know, is this a bid or is this, we've got it?
This is a contract, if accepted in its form by SoccerX, would be binding. Now, legal staff has taken and made many adjustments to make sure that the contract read as the representatives stated that it would, and even included some additional language that SoccerX might want to negotiate further that helps protect the city's position. One in particular is the $500,000 investment that go into escrow and doesn't go directly receive it, if they receive it, and they appreciate it, then yes, they could sign it, and it would be a contract.
Second question. Looking at these terms, there's $500,000 going in escrow, there's hotel rooms, there are meals, there are several things that when I look at this, the first thing that comes to me in regard to finances, I want to negotiate this. Is this agreement binding the way it is, where we do not have power to negotiate the hotel rooms, the price, the meals? Because, I understand the levity of this group and everything that's coming here, but I also understand that we have a brand new center. We've got to get some ROI. We're getting some. I'm a negotiator. I want to try to do better. Is that a possibility with this contract?
That's the question. Until it's signed by both parties, certainly it's negotiable. If Soccer X were to have any proposed revisions, we would work with them through those, and once both parties sign, as Mr. Smith said, it would be a binding contract.
But at any point, that any additional negotiations are made, then the entire contract is on the table, correct?
That's correct.
Third question out of four, and then when you bring things like this to a city, you bring a large conference, you bring a large sporting event, you certainly reach out to partners. Are we reaching out to partners to help us? Because this is a global event. This is a global event. This is a global event in a time when we have 3 countries working together to bring the World Cup to the U.S. Have we reached out to partners? Have we talked to the Alabama Sports Council? Have we talked to the state of Alabama? Have we talked to the county? Have we talked to neighboring states? Have we talked to CONCACAF to get resources in to help us bring down that number of $500,000 and to bring in some money to cover those hotel rooms?
I cannot say that has occurred, but I do know that once these various entities and agencies come to understand that they have an opportunity to invest, whether it be through sponsorships or the like, then it's my belief that there will be many people coming to participate with an event of this nature.
And that would be after we've agreed to host it.
It'll be after the contracts are signed by both parties.
Final question. There's 2 names on this document. Rita Reevy from Soccer X Limited and Mayor Frank Cato. Have the 2 parties talked about the contract? And where are you, Mayor, on signing this contract if the resolution passes today?
You ready to hear my comments?
I would guess that would be up to Mr. Posey.
If everybody has questions, we can certainly wait. My question to you when the time comes, have you spoken to Rita Reevy of Soccer X? And are you prepared to sign this contract if the resolution passes today and enter these negotiations?
I've never heard of her, met her, talked to her.
I've never heard of her. I've seen a letter the last 6 or 8 days from her. I don't know anyone from Soccer X. Heard Mr. Boomy give me a presentation about 8 or 10 days ago, I think, last Thursday. I have had absolutely no involvement in this, or has anyone anyone in my office had any involvement with it. To answer your question, I would absolutely not sign this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Mr. President, I've got a couple. Actually, just really one. You know, there's a corporate environment, and a home environment, and mayor in a city environment. There's a distinct difference between short-term payoff and strategic vision. The city has invested $80 million in a facility that's world-class that needs strategic vision. This is an opportunity that I've seen come forth that, quite frankly, I've not seen leadership embrace like I've seen Mr. Smith exhibit leadership in the 5 years I've been here. As I stated at our work session and meeting a couple of weeks ago, this is an opportunity to give Hoover exposure on a global stage like we've never had before. And the $500,000 price tag certainly brings a degree of sticker shock that $500,000 should. That's a lot of money. You consider the complex, as Mr. Shaw referred to, that we have the opportunity to showcase on a world stage, that we have an opportunity to exhibit a sport that is growing probably more rapidly than any sport in the southeast in the city of Hoover. Opportunity knocks, and it doesn't knock often. And I want to thank Mr. Smith for his leadership and willingness to explore this, to bring it forth, and to give the city of Hoover an opportunity to exercise some strategic vision that has been lacking for quite some time. Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Not, I'm going to extend the offer to the audience. Anyone from the audience would like to speak this evening? Mr. Singer.
Arnold Singer, 613 Riverhaven Place. We've heard of Soccer X as being a worldwide organization. And I think in everything that we've heard up until this evening, it would be drawing attendance from all over the world. I believe, Mr. Smith, I heard you refer to various countries and areas in this hemisphere, in North America, South America, and Central America. That is certainly a subset, an important subset, but a subset of what we were told last Thursday. Now, one other question of data. Is that hotel rooms, period, or is it hotel room nights, the 250? Nights, okay, good, thank you. It's certainly a lot less expensive than unlimited. On September 2nd, a delegation from Hoover flew out of Atlanta to Manchester, England, and arrived on September 3rd. Let's remember those dates. I'll come back to them as I move along. When this was originally presented, I liked the idea. I liked all the things that John Lyda and Mike Shore spoke about. It's a great kind of event, but as I said last Monday night, after due diligence, and I spoke about my antenna. Well, it hit me, now one of the things that it hit me right away was with the hotels being the Winfrey Hotel and being Rossbridge, and considering that we are talking about top-notch leaders, corporate people, people of money, of substance, who didn't have to go elsewhere for approval, they're gonna come on their corporate jet or their personal jet. But they can't. I figured, gee, Bessemer Airport to Rossbridge is a 17-minute drive. Shelby County Airport to the Winfrey is a 19-minute drive. That's great. This have a place to pull their planes in, etc. We then so now I start looking to see what do people need to get into the country. Okay, there is no Customs and Border Patrol at either Bessemer or at Shelby County Airport. So the only thing that they could fly into in the metropolitan area would be Birmingham. Birmingham, Customs and Border Patrol are only there Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, you have the convenience of being able to arrive in Manchester on a Sunday. Somebody coming to our convention could not land here. They would have to go to Atlanta or to another city that had Customs and Border Patrol, because even if you have electronic vetting, you still have to be interviewed, however quickly or long, by Customs and Border Patrol. This is not the kind of environment that the people that we're looking to attract are looking for. So the flexibility that you had in when you left and when you arrived, everything was available to you. I did some further checking. But by the way, I did validate conversation after the Chamber of Commerce meeting today with the chairperson of the Bessemer Airport Authority. And she confirmed to me that there is no Customs and Border Protection people. I spoke at breakfast with a travel agent who does an awful lot of international travel booking. Yes, we do have an airport called Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport. There are 2 destinations that are international. They are not operable on weekends. They are not operable in the evening. So it's restricted hours. So as much as we would like to be able to have this, I think shifting this emphasis a bit to the fact that we're in the process of hiring an economic developer, that for just a fraction of the $500,000, we can create promotional videos to provide support. We can provide hotel nights to bring people from within this country who could land at any time at Bessemer Airport or at Shelby County Airport. There's all the flexibility. It's a matter of changing our emphasis a bit, but to achieve the same result. This is, if you have any questions about what I've just said,
The only statement that I would make in response is that this has never been identified as an international conference. This has always been a continental conference.
not I mean, I may be 80 years old, but my ears work, and my memory works real well.
I have no intent of belittling you, Mr. Singer. I'm just saying that this has always been a comment of confidence.
By the way, you know, typically, Councilman Middlebrooks is able to post various documents in advance of meetings. It's a shame that the public did not get a chance to see the 21-page document.
That was under advice of legal counsel.
Now, also, if you folks do decide to vote in favor of it, I would strongly suggest that the points that were raised by Councilman Posey be gone over in detail so that we do have those fiscal limitations. And if necessary, if it's not the I's dotted and the T's crossed of what we send out, because what we send out, as soon as they put their signature on, there is no more negotiation. So let's make sure that we have what we want in it, and if necessary, call another special meeting to go over that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the audience? Are you getting up to speak, Mr. Holman?
Yes, sir.
Been a while since we've seen you, so what is the new address? Spring.
Vestavia residents, but heavily involved in the sports scene here in this community.
Name and address, please.
Gene Holman, Vestavia. I'm not here to advocate one way or another on Soccer X at all. I don't know the particulars of the agreement or anything along those lines. But I thought I would give a perspective about soccer and what it means to our country and this community in general. Dr. Lemack, back in '94, contacted our organization to help with Olympic soccer. I thought he was crazy. But it ended up being a tremendous success. In Birmingham, Hoover sold more tickets than Orlando, Washington, and Miami, the other soccer venues, Centennial Olympic Games combined. And from that, the Alabama Sports Foundation was formed. U.S. Soccer was so impressed with what happened here that we had 7 international soccer competitions at Legion Field, culminating in a World Cup qualifier after that, which was a very important thing for the men's team to qualify for the World Cup in that particular year. We had a very partisan and large crowd each and every time the U.S. men's or women's team played at Legion Field. And U.S. Soccer fell in love with this community. Unfortunately, Legion Field tore up the grass, put artificial turf down, and it made it very difficult to host international soccer any longer. However, in 2015, when the women's national team captured this country's imagination by winning the World Cup in very dramatic fashion, they did a victory tour after they won the World Cup, and they went to 10 cities. And after they were done, the second most attended friendly competition they did on this tour was Birmingham Hoover, just behind Pittsburgh. I wish we'd have got it. We almost did. So, tremendous success. U.S. Soccer still very much, mainly because of Dr. Lemack and his relationship that he's built with him over many, many years, really has a strong affinity for this community. So I think that's a plus for our community as a whole. Secondly, Councilor Posey mentioned the World Cup in 2026. I think it's very close to being a reality that North America is going to be hosting the World Cup in 2026, which is the world's largest sporting event, arguably bigger than the Olympic Games themselves. And while Birmingham Hoover will not be one of the venues to host the competition, they've already narrowed the list down, I strongly think that this community could be a host site for
team training, medical hub, a fan fest destination. There's no doubt in my mind we'll be a part, this community, of the 2026 World Cup. And then I'm obviously very familiar with the Hoover Metropolitan Complex and what a phenomenal facility it is, and it's still coming out of the ground literally. And I know it to be a gem because we had a very, very successful SEC baseball tournament this past year, in large part due to the addition of the Finley Center. My company also is the marketing agent for BUSA, which is the largest youth soccer organization in the state. It's growing rapidly. And I remember as a child, soccer was always the next big thing. And you kept waiting, and you kept waiting, and it never quite happened. But all of a sudden, it's happened. Major League Soccer franchises have escalated in value 20% in 1 year. That league is exploding. So on a national basis, soccer has arrived. On a local basis, soccer's arrived. Our community is well positioned to be a great destination for soccer things, soccer events, and I just wanted to share that perspective and background as it relates to soccer. I would also add one final thing that is specific to Hoover and economic development around sports. You'll remember back in 1992, we got a request, and it was very quiet, from the Metropolitan Development Board to host and entertain a group of economic development prospects from Europe. And that first tournament was in August, and it was so hot. And we did everything that the Metropolitan Development Board asked us to do. We had a clinic, we put them in a pro-am, an outing, and we entertained these folks. And they came and saw a great side to Hoover, because it was a gravestone. And they saw a great side to our community. It's their first visit to Alabama. And then they went down to Vance and looked at the site. And that was, of course, Mercedes. So sport, in general, is a great platform for economic development. I've seen it time and time again. Once again, I'm not speaking to the particulars of this program because I don't know it. I just know that soccer has arrived in this country in a very big way. Any questions?
Mr. President, Mr. Hallman, I realize you have this document, and obviously your success in sports and bringing sports to the city and sporting events to the city paramount. With time to review this, to sit down and talk with the city, would it be something that your company would consider?
Oh, we would absolutely sit down and collaborate and review. And I know that the Convention and Visitors Bureau has weighed in also, but I'd like the chance to visit with those folks again and just see. We'd be glad to vet and give an honest assessment of the pros and the cons of this situation. We would very much welcome the opportunity to help the city sort through this. They're always complex, and they're always somewhat of a roll of the dice. We've seen it time and time again, and majority of times, my organization, we've been very fortunate, been blessed, and have been successful, but there's been some times when we've stepped off the wrong end, and it hadn't quite worked out. And so we've learned. My point is, Councilor, we've learned, and we'll be glad to share what we've learned over the years and help Hoover. Hoover's such a great partner to our organization. We'll volunteer and help any way we can.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience? Dr. Lee Mack?
I'm Dr. Larry Lee Mack. I live in Boundbrook. And as most of you probably know, I've kind of involved in sports and sports medicine, sports that my whole career. As usual, following Gene doesn't leave me a whole lot to say because we've worked together since '96 in the Olympics. And
understands it and works on the ground day to day on it. So it's hard for me to kind of explain it any better. You just explained it to you. My position, and I have no idea of the economics of this. If the Sports Foundation was involved in it, I'd know a lot about it, and I'd be able to make good economic decisions, which I have no problem making. But as far as my background and reason, I think this is at least something that needs to be considered, and if all of you feel it's economically viable, and I say that very clearly because I spend foundation money on things, and I have to do it wisely. You're spending public money, and you have to do it wisely. So I'm not going to weigh in on that, and don't have an opinion. Probably wouldn't take an opinion on it. But my background is fairly strong in sports, of course, but it's also in soccer. I'm the chief medical officer for Major League Soccer and have been for all 20 years of their existence. So I'm intimately involved with the soccer community. I'm in New York at headquarters pretty frequently and run the medical aspects of Major League Soccer. And I'm also involved with soccer, as Gene was sharing with you, for many, many years through U.S. Soccer and our relationship through sports. So I'm a little bit kind of leaning heavily towards soccer in the community, but I understand it fairly well too. And this is a major event from my perspective. I was in Atlanta a few weeks ago for working actually at the soccer game at the Mercedes Stadium, and the place was just about full. And apparently the last game it was full. So they're filling that stadium in Atlanta with 70,000 people or close to it every time. There's a tremendous interest in soccer in Atlanta. It's really grown, it's really caught on. I'm kind of amazed because I've watched the teams grow, and a lot of teams have been very successful, and I was curious about Atlanta because most of the teams have been successful because they built stadiums that are 25, 30,000. They're putting these people in the Mercedes Stadium, and it seats 70, but it's turned out to be a pretty good gamble. But they have a first-class organization in every way, so, but they've bred a lot of soccer interest, which is the point. And they're very close, and I think an event like this, I think you would draw, of course, you'll draw internationally, but you draw nationally too, because people from the soccer community will attend this event. This is a very well thought of event. So as far as being something I can speak to, there is a tremendous amount of interest in the Southeast and in our area for soccer, and I just weigh that in your decisions. I don't, like I said, economics is all, I don't know the facts on that, but there is a tremendous amount of interest in soccer, and Gene kind of told the story pretty well. When I wanted to bring soccer to Birmingham people in '96, people literally, I mean, every corporate leader kind of like, you got to be kidding, but we got enough support that actually turned out to be a pretty good gamble because the event was exciting. People enjoyed it. People to this day still remember it and enjoyed it. So I think soccer, there's not a base for soccer at the higher level in our city, but literally all the kids are playing soccer around Birmingham. It's a great sport for the young ones. I have now, generationally, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter playing soccer. I was with her 2 nights ago at soccer practice. The place is packed. You can't even get in where she plays soccer. It's so busy. So there's still a lot of interest in soccer, and that's kind of my perspective on it. And I'm glad to entertain any questions from anybody about it.
If I could ask one question. And I probably should ask this to Mr. Holman too. Since y'all are pretty familiar with this soccer world in general and the big events and things, our fee is $500 or $500,000. We get 30% of the gross proceeds, correct, Mr. Crowley?
That's correct.
Okay. So, and that includes sponsorships, right?
Correct.
Do you think, based on what you've seen, the interest in U.S. soccer and things, that an event like this would generate significant sponsorship potential, just based on, I know you can't predict the future, but with something like this, based on what you've seen before, to generate significant sponsorship interest,
You mean local sponsorship?
just in general.
Yeah, and I don't know what Soccer X does as far as, controlling sponsorships. I don't know if they have categories or anything like that, or they just let you pick up the sponsors, and that's a little bit of a tricky question. As far as local sponsorship, I think if local businesses felt that they wanted to get in front of this community, you'd have to really test the waters in that, but I really don't have a sense for that. Gene, you might answer that better.
I'm sorry, I should ask you that, maybe I've never thought of it.
I chair the organization, he does all the work.
First of all, Counselor Shaw made us sound old. He said, did you know that he was in college when we did Olympic soccer?
It took me a while to get out of college.
Sponsorships are difficult to sell. They are, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's hard. And there are many nuances that we would have to understand. Does Soccer X bring some of their own sponsors, which would preclude certain categories from being sold here locally, domestically? How would Hoover collaborate with them regarding sponsorship sales? If they sell it, do they keep it? Are we competing with them on sponsorships? Companies indigenous to the soccer world, manufacturers, equipment providers, and so forth, I would think would jump at this. Whether it would generate 30% of 500, I don't think so, but could it be a significant offset? Potentially.
Just to be clear, Mr. Crowley, that's 30% of all, they don't get any grandfathered in sponsorships that are excluded from that based on the agreement.
30% of all gross revenues, and gross revenues are defined as all revenues received, excluding their global partner, supplier, and supporter revenue, which is defined in the agreement, and the host city fee, which you.
All right, so what they bring to the table already is not included in that 30%.
The global partner and supplier supporters as defined in the agreement. There are other sponsorships that they provide, which is part of the gross revenue.
I think, to answer the question and sort of sum it up, I think the primary target far and away are going to be companies indigenous to the soccer world, not necessarily companies headquartered here. Because they want to get in front of those people who are in the soccer world, those 1,400, 1,500 people.
Anything else from the audience? Anything else from the council?
Mr. President, just want to verify, there's no one here from SFM to speak on why they passed it.
Mr. President, first of all, let me say again, thank you for your leadership on traveling overseas to look at opportunities available for Hoover. Heard a lot today, and I'll use my words carefully here. I think the mayor has alluded to, or put in concrete, that I'll say he has some concerns on signing his signature on whatever is chosen. Well, if it goes a particular type of way tonight. Also, we have a lot of talent and expertise in our city, and I thank Dr. Leback for actually having his business located in the city of Hoover, quite some time. Is there any way, Mayor, is there any way, I don't know what the time frame is on here now, but is there any way these leaders, with the right information, can get together with the mayor to make him more comfortable with this process, or even carve out other opportunities out there that the city of Hoover can look into as well? Yes, sir. Let me rephrase it.
The way this contract is written, I've had for a couple of days now, there's no way I could even get close to the numbers and feel comfortable that are presented right here.
Again, I guess with that being said, and I heard from Dean Hallman about sponsorship and our goal to get back. I think this is, again, since also outside of the dollar we'll make on this, but really the potential of growth down the road. Again, putting these smart folks together. Dr. Lee Mack being the chief medical officer for MLS is not something that's very light. I mean, he's recognized all around the globe for what he does. Is it a way to put these leaders together, including our mayor, to evaluate this a little bit more? How much time you think we can? Because the president stated he's not going to be comfortable signing it, but I don't want this to be a dead topic, especially if we can utilize a few more days to accomplish our mission. Mr. President, what's your thoughts on, or are we at a point where you put up a shut up type approach?
Mr. Lottie, you might correct me if I misstate things, but it's my understanding that we've about run out the clock as far as soccer races, waiting on Hoover to make a choice. They need 6-7 weeks prior to Qatar, which if I'm right, that's December 4th, thereabout, to be able to get all the printed material that would be necessary for Hoover to make use of the global conference in Qatar. That wouldn't necessarily affect the conference, the Continental Conference in China, but I believe that they have other people waiting, and they will probably bow to them if Hoover chooses to back away from the conference.
I guess my last point, I know it's been some modifications made on this contract, so it's not for certain that they will sign at this point. My point is, and I'll close with this. Again, we have a lot of talent here that has offered up their resources to aid the city. Very strong people, if you will, and also the comfort level with the mayor as well is not quite there yet. Not saying they won't get there. Not saying they will never get there. It's a tough decision.
Anything else from the council?
Mr. President, I think what I agree with Derek and what he said, but I think it needs to be asked. I understand the 7 weeks. What I don't understand is we are entering here into, we are authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the soccer excellence. And the mayor is going to execute the agreement by going in and negotiating said agreement. And we've got 7 weeks here to put our name on something that's gonna be in Cutter to say that we're in it. He hasn't talked to Rita Reed, the other person on this contract. It's a little confusing to me. I think it's an offline conversation to have about why that's confusing to me, but I would ask Mr. Lyda to amend his motion to continue this so that we can meet with someone I hold in high esteem in this regard. That's Dr. Lemak, who is the physician for MLS, who we want them, we want MLS here, we want these parties here, and to discuss with the foundation of how to partner with us. Asking the people to put $500,000 on something that in 7 weeks may be ours, when Mr. Eby signs this and if the mayor signs this, without those partners who have made these things a success on our side, working with Soccer X, and recouping some of this ROI is scary to me. And I think that I would like to hear their take on this contract. And because they've been good partners to us with the SEC and with the golf tournament, and they're the go-to people for this to discuss it. Right now we're working with Soccer X, but we haven't talked principal here in discussing this. And I think by continuing it, having these conversations, and really negotiating this contract with partners is the way to go. And maybe we get that $500,000 down to $200,000, $100,000, and we're going in as a group, because this is so much bigger than Hoover. This is hemispheric in a sense. We're adding on all of the Americans, and we want to bring these big sponsors here, like in Nike, like in Adidas, into this region to have their name and their logo in Hoover, and have them have a presence in Hoover. And I think we're going to do that. We're going to have some. So I'd ask Mr. Light if he would consider amending his motion to continue this so that we have that time to have those conversations and to get the mayor on board, because without a signature is dead. It's not going to go anywhere without a signature, because he is the negotiating party. All we can do is authorize him to negotiate. I mean, I'm being as blunt as I can here. You gotta have that man on our side. And to do that, I think that we have our experts talk to him, we spend the time, and we make a deal, because I don't want it to die. This is a great conference, a great opportunity. It can lead to other things, but we gotta have some additional conversations about this, because without a signature, we don't want.
Smith, if I may? Posey, I think you made a very good point. I appreciate you acknowledging the expertise that's in the room with Dr. Lee Mack and Mr. Hallman. It's my thought that an affirmative vote on this does not exclude what Mr. Posey's recommending. Affirmative vote on this resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with Soccer X Limited. But with our encouragement, Mr. Posey's encouragement and wise words tonight, I don't believe that's excluded from this agreement. Mr. Corley, am I accurate in that? Can the mayor still work with other entities to do what Mr. Posey is describing?
Yes, I agree.
I would agree to. Yeah, Mr. Posey, your point's well made. I think your question to Mr. Lee Mack, to Dr. Lee Mack and Mr. Hallman was some of the best questions tonight. I appreciate those questions. I think you were very wise to ask those, and I don't think we're precluded by passing this resolution from authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute this contract. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor, are you willing to do that? Or are you willing to negotiate this contract and pass it?
You didn't make the motion, Mr. Posey.
Are you willing to do so? Thank you, sir.
Mayor, Mr. Murphy.
Just last question, do we need, Mr. Leiter to restate the motion, or are we fine with what has been stated?
My motion is to approve resolution 573117 is written, and it speaks for itself, and it has a second.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, yes, sir, I'm sorry. I thought you had, made your comments, sir. I apologize.
Thank you. We've heard a good bit of conversation tonight. Thank you, Dr. Lee Mack and Jenny. I appreciate it. And I think the arguments that, or not the arguments, but the facts that they gave tonight prove that probably the Finley Center and the building of those soccer fields and baseball fields, probably a good idea. So we're about halfway through. We've got half of it done. We're waiting on the other half to be completed. This is not my negative answers to the two questions that you've given me tonight. Have nothing to do with soccer. Soccer's a great sport. My grandchildren play it. My son's play. Even he's 42 years old. He plays. I have nothing against conventions. This is probably a pretty good convention. But what I do have a problem with is how it's come about, and the amount of money that these folks are asking is it's almost absurd. Now, the way I'm told that this came about is that these folks came to our town, our metro area, I'm gonna say March or April. They missed it a month or so. It was pitched to SFM and Monty. Monty did what he should do. He didn't ignore it. He did not understand it. He wasn't overwhelmed by it. He took it to professionals, and that would be the Birmingham Convention Bureau. They looked at it, saw the numbers that these folks wanted, and said it doesn't make sense. My understanding is that this group didn't stop there. They went to the Sheridan, pitched it to them, pitched it to the BJCC. They passed on it. Didn't make sense to them either. Somebody in our community has introduced these folks back to us again. They come in with a last-minute contract. Won't tell us who the other cities are, yet it's okay to publish all over the internet that we're getting it, or going to do it, yet we can't understand who. I don't understand why we can't find out who those people are. But anyhow, they came back to us, and we had the presentation a week ago. And I said, we need to check it out. Let's vet it and see what the deal is. So I sent it to the Conventions Bureau. They looked at it again. I sent y'all a letter. They sent me back. I mean, I have no expertise in this. And they would not address it from an economic development standpoint, because that's not what they didn't feel comfortable doing. Let me put it that way. But they did say this: from a tourism perspective, the dollars invested to host the conference would have a greater ROI, return on investment, if used to pay bid fees to secure new youth sports programs, and that would generate a far greater impact for Hoover. So we get this from these folks. I would think that would address the fact that they're asking too much. So then I look at the contract. I get the contract on the 16th. And again, it's $500,000. I've heard the number $700,000. That's, people are quoting you, and that may be totally wrong, Gene, but that's the numbers I'm getting. These people want us to give them $500,000 for the next 4 years. It's about $2 million. They want us to provide them first-class accommodations for an unknown number of people. I don't know, 250 room nights, a 5-star hotel with breakfast. We don't have any 5-star. I looked up to see what a 4-star costs. We do have one, outstanding one, Ross Bridge. It was about $250 a night. So I don't know. That's $50,000 or $60,000. They want us to agree to fly them from London, England, when they're ready. I don't know how many. I don't know if it's 5 or 50. Provide them first-class accommodations again that they approve, and that they must see them before they approve them, so they can do a site visit. And by the way, we want our money quickly when we call for that. Pretty demanding folks. Now, return on investment for us seems, it's just not there. We're taking all the risk. I don't doubt for 1 minute that there will be some very important people that come to this event, and we'll have an opportunity to showcase our city. And it wouldn't be a bad conference to have. But don't sell yourselves short, gentlemen. We are a world-class, smaller city. We're on the world stage. And we have been for a long, long time. We go back to what these gentlemen talked about when we had the Olympics here. We showcased our town. If you look across Hoover, Alabama, and the metro area, we're part of the metro area, you start thinking about what we have here. I'll start out on the other side of town. It's not in our city, but it's in our metro area. Barber Motorsports. They bring people in every day from all over the world. Ross Bridge. They bring people in every day from all over the world to come to our city. We have international firms in our city. We have the fifth largest IT company in Hoover, Alabama, in the world, right here in River Chase. There's a branch of the fifth largest IT company in the world. They bring people from all over the world. We have engineering firms that do work all over the world. They know Hoover, Alabama. We have the SEC tournament that we spend about $500,000 on, and it brings 137,000 people to Hoover for 5 days. It gives us 5 days of uninterrupted TV coverage all over the Southeast. People know who we are. We don't even have a zip code. There's no such place in the post office called Hoover, Alabama. Yet, this past Friday, we were named the 17th most livable city in the United States of America. That went all over the world. Now, this is a pretty good conference. I think we ought to try to get it. But I can tell you right now that the Convention Bureau said it might be worth $50,000 if I come down. They put $50,000 in it if I came down there and jumped up and down on their desk and insisted on it. It's just not there, gentlemen. Now, I'm willing to put that kind of money into it because y'all are very passionate about it. Gene, you put a lot of your own money in it, and I appreciate that. That was very kind of you. And people need to understand that. That was all his dime. He didn't spend one nickel of city money, so I appreciate you doing that. But I think we're very, very far away from what is in this contract of nearly, I'll use your numbers, $700,000. The direction that this city is taking under my leadership, Mr. Lyda, is very clear. And that is to diversify our economy. And we're focusing on that quite a bit. We're hiring a economic developer probably the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. $700,000 put towards investment in bringing in STEM industry in our city that takes years and years and years to do. We're talking now to 2 companies, and by the way, every economic development individual that I've talked to said that 80% of your field that you want to recruit is right here in your backyard. We don't have to go to Qatar or China or even Los Angeles, California. We can stay right here. But for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, we need to think hard about spending that kind of money on one conference. It's bringing maybe 1,200 people, maybe bring 500. We're not going to get the return on our investment, not even close. You take that 700,000, let's stay on the path that we have of trying to recruit STEM industry into our city and other quality retail, and recruiting tourism, and recruiting soccer teams and baseball teams and conferences to fill that place up. Let's put it towards them, not towards this individual company. I'll be glad to work with Dr. Lee Mack and Gene. I'd love for Gene to put up 400. He's a businessman. It's obviously with a 30% return, with his marketing skills, he'll get all his money back and more. But I'm not comfortable giving away $700,000 of our hard-earned taxpayer money towards bringing 1,200 people in here, maybe. It might bring a soccer tournament, might bring a soccer tournament, might bring a soccer tournament. Let's go out, touch all these people all over the southeastern United States that can get here, and do those very things. Not against your tournament, I'm not against this conference. Totally against us taking on all of the burden to give folks we don't know first-class accommodations to a conference that not one Hoover citizen will have an opportunity or will want to attend. It'll do nothing for our citizens. But that $700,000 will do a whole heck of a lot for our citizens in recruiting STEM, promoting tourism in our city, developing an incubator that we've all talked about, and diversifying our economy. So that said, these folks can come off that number by $450,000, and we'll give them our place for free, and do a lot of things like we do for the SEC. Not all of them. We'll really work hard to make it a success. But I'm a long way from $500,000. And I appreciate all that you've done. John, I appreciate your input. Mike, Perk, Gene, John, Casey, Derek, thank y'all. Not against it, just against the dollars. Thank you.
Yes, the one regret as I have is that the legal team did not forward you a copy of the contract that we're voting. Anything else from the council? Not ready to vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Minor?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Nay.
Mr. Murphy?
Nay.
Mr. Posey?
Nay.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
It's like, the resolution is not approved. Unless anybody has anything else to say, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I have one more thing to say.
Yes, sir.
Big Iron Barbecue is tomorrow night. The teams are actively cooking out there tonight, and our Hoover firefighters, local number 4035, has invited the council and Mayor Burcato to come out. They're cooking dinner tonight, and they'd love to feed us, and I'm headed out there as soon as you bring that out. Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, stand up.